When I was 18, I smoked a cheap cigar right here. The old train bridge was my favorite place to go for peace and quiet, and I was celebrating a job that I just got. It was a White Owl white grape cigar. It was awful. So I told myself, next time something big happens, future Caleb, come back here and smoke a better cigar. Now, I'm not a big fan of oral cancer, but a deal's a deal, and something big has happened. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the title of this piece, Excess and Isolation. What do I mean by that? Ooh, nice. When you spend so much time by yourself, you just keep multiplying. So that isolation that was once the absence of people paradoxically becomes not a void, but an excess of yourself, whatever that is. And so when you're alone, something I've noticed is you naturally trend towards excesses. Here, I made a chart. My first excess was books. And yeah, there are arguably worse. Like YouTube, explicit degrading content online, video games, Netflix. I mean, insert whatever your vice or addiction is. And the excess of those things, it pulls you deeper into isolation and despair and depression, and you become even more self-absorbed and less able to think of yourselves. And well, you get the idea. I think we all know what I'm talking about. So, what changed? To get there, we need to go back to my old neighborhood. It was weird going back. Nothing had changed, and everything had changed. See, the abandoned church I broke into as a teenager, it was still there, and just as beautiful as ever. My friend broke into that stained glass window. And it was just 3 years ago somehow that me and my brother went out to this place in the freezing rain just for a pickup shot for a video we were doing. Walking to the old subway, man, it reminded me of getting dumped there when I was 17. And it sucked at the time, but actually it was a huge blessing because me and that girl, we didn't respect each other. And neither of us were spiritually mature enough to be in a committed relationship. So I just don't know what we were thinking. And that actually brings me to one of the excesses that I didn't mention, which was girls. I tried to find worth in relationships to no avail. Something I learned during this photo shoot is that when you smoke more than one cigarette at a time, even without inhaling, it burns your eyes and it makes your mouth taste like a dry chunk of charcoal and cotton. I think if these had been real cigarettes and not prop cigarettes, I just would have had a monster headache from all the nicotine. David Foster Wallace talks about worship, something I think is related to this, like this.
Because here's something else that's weird but true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship.
So, what do you worship? I worship Jesus Christ, the crucified and resurrected King. I started following him alone in my bedroom when I was depressed and anxious and, at times, a bit suicidal. That was the thing that kept me holding on, a desire for God, this deep desire to not need to be God, but just a beloved creation. See, when you kill God, someone needs to take his place. And if that someone is you, a very finite guy who can barely keep his room clean for more than a week, well, good luck creating anything more than temporary meaning. See, our culture is obsessed with independence, but the truth is, we need people more than we want to admit, and we need God even more than that. So, that leaves us with one question. Would you give up your pride if it meant knowing an all-loving, all-powerful, all-righteous God? It's a question that we all answer daily. And for a while, my answer was almost exclusively no. And honestly, it's still no, more often than I'd like to admit. I have plenty of philosophical reasons to believe in God, but this is the simple reason. Jesus saved me from excess and isolation. Honestly, I would have stayed isolated if it wasn't for him. And now, well, now I feel like I'm home. And my Creator knows my name.